we even named it yet.
I don't think we have a name yet. I mean, what do you think? Like, the music review, the Velvet Underground music review, Velvet Underground music review.
Vummer. Velvet Underground music review.
Yeah, I don't really like that very much.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
We could do like Port Scurvy reviews music.
No,
or something
no,
like
dude. I'd say keep Port Scurvy out of it. You can do like a play on it,
Yeah.
but you shouldn't use the actual words Port Scurvy, just because I don't know, it starts to sound corny.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to think of something like something of drywall, because there's just a lot of unfinished walls around here. But I couldn't think of a good play on words of music with that.
Yeah, that's kind
Okay,
of
so welcome to what is, I guess, a music talk show run out of the Velvet Underground.
Oh yeah.
And we'll come up with a name sooner or later.
Yeah. Well, we gotta come up with some sort of name to put on the title. So.
But before you go naming the podcast, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Rotvong the Inventor, aka Andrew Briggs, aka Andy, aka Swamp Monster, aka.
Alrighty. And
all of it.
I'm Michael Frittner, otherwise known by the online alias of One Speed.
All right. You do the One Speed second instead of. You don't want to be known as just One Speed, referred to as just One Speed on this podcast, or.
I think it'd be weird if you were addressing me with that. I'm probably still gonna say Andy.
Speed. Hey, Speed.
Hey, do you want to talk about why you want to do this music talk podcast? Do you want to talk about your frustration with the content out there that's kind of brought about the need for this?
Yeah, so I don't know if any of the listeners have heard of the Joe Budden DJ Academics Everyday Struggle video cast that's been going up on Complex recently. I've been watching a whole lot of that, and I've come to grow tired of some of the artist's standpoint on the way music should be, and I kind of just would like to have wanted to produce something that would be more of like a fan-based music review. So where two fans, or maybe if we have some guests, maybe
when one fan Tano doesn't cut it, two fans have to step in to review.
Exactly. That's another thing too. Is Fantano's kind of started to get on my nerves a little bit too. So I just would like to have a podcast where not only am I able to share new music that I'm listening to, and Speed can share new music.
See, it doesn't have a good ring to it. I mean, yeah.
Okay. Frittner has new things he can listen to and shit like that, and we just want to present a couple different perspectives for you. And hopefully we'll go from there.
Alrighty. So the way this is gonna work out, at least for this first week here, is that I'm gonna talk about an album that I picked out that, I don't think it necessarily has to be a wholly glowing positive review or anything. Just something that it piqued my interest.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about it a bit. Andy's got an album that also piqued his interest.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a featured album or tape project that we'll just talk about in the middle there. And at the end, we'll just kind of give our 2 cents on what else we've been listening to.
For sure.
At least for this first one.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't really have necessarily all positive reviews to say about any of the albums that I'm going to present today. And I'm sure Frittner has his gripes as well, but I just wanted to get a couple different perspectives on this, on specific music, and we can go from there. So, Frittner, do you want to introduce your album to start it off?
I don't want to butcher this person's name, and I think you said it right. I keep saying it wrong because I used to pronounce it Snoh Aalegra, and that's not how you say it. So this album is written by, created by, headed by Snoh. You were supposed to finish that little bit there.
What bit?
Sorry. How do you say Snoh Aalegra, right?
I say it like that. I say it like Snoh Aalegra. I don't know. I don't know how you're supposed to say it. That's what I was trying to look up here. I was trying to look
Okay,
up
because
the phonetic
and
pronunciation.
they say it in the album actually, and I'll get to that. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, Feels by Snoh Aalegra. Who's Snoh Aalegra? Snoh Aalegra is a Swedish. I think I got that right.
Swedish. Yeah.
Swedish singer, kind of R&B, sort of soul. That's at least the iTunes description. I'd always kind of thought of her as more like one of those hip hop R&B artists, like the one like this. And this album kind of fits that description, like
Yeah.
an R&B album that only really has rap features. And she kind of gets lumped in with like that group of people like Kamaya, or not Kamaya specifically, but like the R&B artists who they're not like the Skylar Greys of the world, but like they just kind of have their own thing going on. Their own music I don't think is as popular as their features, and you just kind of see these people pop up. You might recognize her from a lot of Vince Staples' work. Jump Off the Roof specifically, that's kind of my go-to song. That's how I found out about her. And the way they use her vocals in that song is pretty neat.
Yeah.
Because it's like almost like a screech. Like
Yeah,
just
right.
kind of trying to like amp up the mood. And the other place that you might have heard her, which I didn't even know this until I was like looking into like linear notes, or I heard the song, one of the singles for this album called Time. That's very, it clicks right away where you've heard it before. If you've listened to More Life, Drake playlist from earlier this year, you'd recognize the last song, Do Not Disturb. That's like just a looped version of like 20 seconds of this song.
Right.
And it's pretty cool because I didn't know that. I didn't recognize her right off the bat on that. But yeah, so let's talk about this a little bit.
Yeah. So I briefly want to mention about Time. That track was one of my favorites off this album, to be honest. They had a very good. I felt like it was very Celine Dion-esque.
Yeah, no,
Like it came off.
it's like
very
epic,
much like
right?
Celine. Yeah, it's very epic and very beautiful and
My
melodic.
heart will
and-
go on. It's
Yeah.
it's a lot like that, right?
Yeah, very very much. That's pretty much what I meant.
No, like you can definitely see it like being played like with the score of a movie or something, and
Yeah,
I always
right.
like when that clicks. So, yeah,
Sure.
I would say that's a definite standout. I also really liked. I'm not a big Logic guy, really at all, and the other two rappity rap features on here are Vince Staples and Vic Mensa. So those guys both deliver. I like both those guys. Nothing too out of the ordinary. I think Vic Mensa's the song that he's on is actually one of the stronger cuts off of here. Even though he himself doesn't really add too much. I like how he like addresses Ms. Allegra just like that. I think he says her name with the correct pronunciation though. And I like that when a feature artist isn't just kind of doing their own thing, like you can tell they just bought the feature, that like they were actually in the studio
Yeah,
and they were
right.
doing some stuff. So I think that's kind of neat. But yeah, going back to this, like even like sometimes the song that features Logic, she makes the rap feature work out of an artist that like I don't normally get it with.
Right.
Just because these aren't very conventional features, like the actual verses that they deliver. They kind of all carve out a little place for themselves on there. They don't feel like kind of how I felt about the features on the last Gorillaz album.
Yeah.
Just like you present an artist with a track, and then they just kind of do their thing on it, and you're like, all right, sweet, we got to push a T-verse on here, you know?
Right.
Like they feel very interwoven into whatever message she's trying to convey, which the album itself doesn't really have a great theme. But, you know, I don't think she's really that established of an artist, doesn't need to be pulling out those big concepts or anything like that. It's just kind of a really nice piece of, like, vibe from start to finish. And a lot of the songs run together for that reason, which that's my problem with a lot of these kinds of albums. The ones by these R&B artists that are kind of intertwined with a lot of the hip-hop stuff. When they go to do their own thing, you kind of like actually don't really know what to expect because you're just used to hearing like their little blurb, their little like I guess background usage or hook usage when they're on that kind of a duty for a hip hop album. You don't know what they're gonna bring when they go to do something like this themselves. And this isn't her first big release; it's the first big release that I've listened to from her. But some stuff just kind of melt together in the middle there, starts to sound a little samey. The coolest thing about that, though, is that I think the production overall is just a pretty great thing for that this album has going for it. Like you were saying, she has like a Celine Dion thing going on. Like, there's a lot of grand instrumentation on here. And
Yeah, she uses. I wanted to say she uses a lot of like orchestral leads and like very. It's all very beautiful and like flows very well together. Like the tracks definitely have like a general like idea when it comes to production, but I felt like lyricism wise, it was like all over the map. There wasn't really necessarily a clear cut message that was trying to get pulled
right, like
across.
I mean, a lot of it's going to be about love, and there isn't a ton to say about love that other people haven't said before. So you got to do something different with it if you want to make it memorable. And I don't think she really does all that here. I think her voice is strong enough to convey that kind of stuff, but it just doesn't happen on this project all that often.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I liked the instrumentation and like the orchestral sort of stuff. Deviates from a lot of the stuff you see on albums like Sid the well, I guess it's just Sid now, of former Odd Future and the internet acclaim. You know, a lot of that stuff is more like electronic, and I feel like that doesn't work all the time for a lot of these artists. Like people with these kinds of voices, they try to kind of mix it with EDM, and I don't think they pull it off a lot of the time. I think this was kind of a cooler way to do it, to put her vocal talents on display when she's doing it solo. Are you flipping through a notebook over there?
Yeah, I'm just looking back at my notes for this specific album.
But yeah, I'd say overall, just a pretty solid listen. The kind of people that I recommend this to, people who are kind of burnt out on all that like really vulgar kind of R&B, the stuff that you'd hear on the radio, and just kind of it doesn't do anything like revolutionary, but it's just kind of a nice, concise listen. It's only 13 tracks and it's about 40 minutes.
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah, it was a pretty fast listen.
it's something you can study too, which not a lot of stuff can fit that, you know, unless you're just gonna go to the chill lo-fi hip hop station on YouTube, you know. So I thought that was kind of neat. You got anything else you want to say about it?
Yeah, there are a couple tracks here that I really thought were stood out in the track listing. I definitely, because you know I'm a Vince Staples shill. I really liked the one Vince Staples cut on this. Nothing Burns Like the Cold, I think is what it was. And it had a very like James Bond 007 like feel. Like I felt like it was straight off of like Skyfall,
And that
like
goes
a Skyfall
back, that
soundtrack.
goes back to that orchestral stuff, or like when she pulls off like those Celine Dion moments.
Yeah.
Or I guess, you know, I'm thinking Skyfall now. So like that like grandeur that Adele brings with her voice. Like she just gets like really deep, and you can really feel the heart in her voice.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. I mean, like I was like really enthralled by those punchy horns that come through. That's what really like set the 007 sort of mood was like the exactly.
Yeah.
It was very much like that, and I like that one. And then there was also one I kind of I thought was a very very chill one. Had like a beachy vibe. You Keep Me Waiting. Had like kind of a little bit of like a beach vibe sort of thing. Like I felt like it could have been a sample of a Beach Boys track sort of thing. Like it was very but it was very like chilled out, very very low.
That one stood out to me
lo-fi.
too. It has a unique instrumental that you know, it's not one of the ones that blends in. The other two that I really like, we already kind of talked about Time, and that's just because my favorite track, or one of my two favorite tracks on More Life, was the last one. And you know, I'm a sucker for when Drake just raps over just really like soulful stuff. So that's pretty neat. And then the last one I really like, Feels, just the title track.
Feels. Yeah.
That one really delivers for me. And you know, like whenever an artist names like a track after the title of the album, you gotta think like, oh well, is this like the thesis statement? Or
Right.
is this the thing that like draws it all together?
Right.
And I don't think it's super representative of like all the other work here, but I can see if that one came first, and you just kind of wanted to build a project around that cut, that would make sense. But I don't know, it's a good one.
Yeah. Throughout a lot of it, like I felt like it was very jazzy, very very exaggerated swing on a lot of the tracks, and as I would expect from someone that's a little bit more of a jazzy R&B artist. But I just really clicked with me. It brought me back to the days when I used to play, and I thought it was definitely something to give a listen to. for sure.
And the last thing I really want to say before we like wrap this thing up, I like really cool album art, and that's actually kind of what made me want to check it out. I saw like the little thumbnail. I was like, oh, that's pretty neat. So if you're not looking at it right now, it's this like cosmonaut astronaut lady from looking like something from like a 1950s comic book, and there's like a big rainbow going through her. And I like that kind of direction. It's very like indie. I hate that. I hate using that descriptor, but like that's what it is.
Yeah, right.
Like it's a little bit like it definitely fits in with that style of things. Like you could see this thing in a record shop when all this kind of music's sort of forgotten 20 years down the line. You're like, oh, that's pretty neat, and you might just listen to it solely off of that album art alone. So cool stuff
For sure.
Alrighty, so what do you got for me?
All right, so this week I chose rapper formerly known as JIDK, now just known as as IDK. I Was Very Bad is the name of the album.
Tell me a little bit about Jay.
Yeah, so a little bit about Jay. I'm pretty sure he's a Maryland rapper. He's out of Maryland. Coming up with a lot of East Coast style, East Coast flavor. We had he has who did he have? Doom. A lot of different features on this one. It was like Doom, Del the Funky Homo Sapien. Those two features like really stood out for me.
Wait a minute, hold up.
Yeah, what's up?
Those people aren't featured on this album.
Yeah, they are.
You sure it wasn't just a direct sample? Because that's what I want to talk about.
Was that what it was?
Yeah, dude. No, and all right, just we'll put that thought in the back of our heads. We'll get to it because that's like my main thing with this album, and it's a thing that I like, but I also think it's really lazy.
Yeah.
So just keep doing your thing. Don't talk about those guys. The real features in this album. There's 2 of them by Young Gleesh, right?
Yeah.
And who's the other one? Chief Keef.
Chief Keef, yeah, the Chief Keef feature. But yeah, I mean, I really I don't really know much about IDK.
Dude, this was produced by Thelonious Martin.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I don't really know much about IDK as this specific track.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I don't really know much about IDK, but I did like there was a little bit of stir on Reddit about this album, and I just wanted to like kind of give it a once through, give it a listen.
Had you ever heard any of his other stuff?
No, not necessarily. I want to go back after listening to this. I kind of want to go back and listen to the old JIDK stuff, but
yeah.
But I haven't gotten around to it yet. A lot of the production on this album was done by a guy called what was his name? I just had it up. Let me see, which one was it? This one. Cal Banks. Cal Banks does a lot of production on this one, and I felt like this album had like kind of a dichotomy to it. There were a lot of hard hitting trap bangers, like stuff you would hear like that you'd just like turn up to at a party or whatever. But kind of like but then hold on, let me get to it. Then they had a few that were like a little bit more toned down and a little bit more. I guess the instrumentals were a bit more melodic, but I felt like those were some of the weaker moments on the project. There were, I don't know. It just kind of felt like towards the middle of the project, it kind of like was jumping around between ideas, and this specific song 17 with a 38 was kind of out of place.
That's my least favorite song, and like this is what I want to talk about.
Okay.
So the reason I like this album so much is because I think it does trap in like a different way. And in saying that, it's just like my big problem with trap music. I've felt that way since I started listening to whatever people have been calling trap since 2013. Trap music goes back much further than that, but I think the current flavor of trap is just a lot of very similar sounding instrumentals, and I'm sure we're gonna get we need to talk about that a little bit when we talk about our next project here. But yeah, so the way he breaks up this monotony is there's a lot of like vocal samples from different things. There's just like brief cuts of like music that comes in from kind of out of nowhere that changes up the beat. And some songs are just, yeah, like the more melodic ones. It's like a more melodic song, but then he kind of uses trap flows over it, and I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And since it's such a short project, like, it's only 35 minutes, none of these songs really overstay their welcome. I don't think there's really room for a dead spot. The only one that I think comes close is 17 with a 38, which I think Chief Keef's kind of been on a feature role, and I think he's been in a very interesting part of his career since he's kind of fallen off the map a little bit and can't really perform in a lot of places. So I like the feature, but like the song itself, yeah, it feels out of place. And it was kind of ruining for me this like good, like very personal theme that the album had going. And like I understand that the song itself, 17 with a 38, you know, it's kind of about him being young and dealing with guns and stuff like that. But it just wasn't doing it for me, and I feel like it was a little too choppy to be thrown in there for what it was. And I'm looking at the track list right now, and you know it's one of the starred songs in Apple Music.
Yeah.
So that means it was probably a single.
Here's the thing, like I have to say about it. I felt like I agree with you. It didn't really fit into the rest of the album.
Yeah.
But I still wouldn't say that it was. I don't think I would say that it was a weaker track.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, for me,
in the context of the rest of the album, yes, it was probably one of the weaker ones. But I felt like I would recommend this song to like anyone that wants like just a fucking banger.
Ignorant stuff.
Like it's a straight, like for me it was like a very dark, very gritty sort of banger, and I thought that it has appeal to a lot of the masses, but it's not necessarily something a hip-hop head
Yeah, well, and I also
would
just
enjoy.
don't think it's very representative of the other music he makes. Like, let's say you go to see, can I say I Don't Know, or is it IDK, like, all the time? Because I kept...
I don't
okay,
know, whatever you want to
all
say.
right, I'm going to an IDK set, and I'm just like, all right, dude, I'm ready to hear some, like, ignorant shit. Let's do it. And, like, he does, like, his one big song. I'm going completely talking out my butt right now, but like let's say he like opens with like 17 with 38. He's got a couple of features that kind of fit that same sort of flavor, but like most of the bulk on this project doesn't sound that way, and I think it'd just be kind of weird to like change things up after only doing a couple of songs that have that same kind of sound, you know? And it's almost like a different rapper for part of it. I'm just like,
Yeah.
Which actually that's kind of the whole project. Like a lot of times you feel like he'd have more features just because his voice changes, and it's pretty bizarre. And he like does parts of other songs like that were part of his youth, probably. Like we're just gonna kind of transition into this now, if you don't mind. Do you have anything else you want to say about this song?
No, just
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah. So this is something I really like about this album, but I also think it's really lazy. He incorporates flows, refrains, an entire verse in one instance from other songs. Family Business by Kanye West.
Yeah.
The entire like first half of Kanye's first verse is on is that No Words? The song that one's on?
I don't remember.
It's either that or No Shoes on the Rug. And I like that a lot. I'm a Kanye just super fan, you know. So it's cool when he does that, and I understand why he does it for such a personal project, but you know, it's lazy, and these songs are short to begin with, so it's just kind of weird. And you see another stuff he does, like At Night I Think of You. He does like the Last Night, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, that's another one, which I think it's kind of cooler to do it that way, because it's more of an homage. Like it's like when Travis Scott starts doing Day and Night, and like he changes the verse part way. He does that same sort of thing when he's doing the Del the Funky Homo Sapien impression. Like he does the part from Clint Eastwood where he's like, finally someone let me out of my cage, which I don't think it's a clip of it. I think he actually just raps that.
Really?
Yeah, and like his voice changes for it, and it's weird. And I didn't catch the Doom one, but I'd more than willing bet that that he just did the same thing with the Doom one.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure.
And
I thought I was really, I was that song in particular. That song's called Pizza Shop.
Yeah.
I thought I really liked that song. That was
I like the song a lot too.
Yeah, that was one of that. I feel like that was one of the better cuts off the project. But yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from. But I don't necessarily know if he was just like if he was like imitating those rappers or if those were actually
for the Kanye one he definitely just rapped the verse.
Right. Right. And then that's another thing I wanted to say is like a lot of this album, like you can tell is like pulls a lot of Kanye influence.
Yeah, but dude, that's everybody.
Like, yeah, but this in
like,
particular, like, especially the second song, what was it, Maryland?
Oh, do you want to say the whole name of that song?
What I forget what the name of the song was.
Maryland ass.
Maryland ass. What?
You want to read that third word?
Oh, is it the N word?
Yeah, it's the N word.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to.
That had my favorite feature.
Break that on the podcast.
That had my favorite feature on the album, and which
Yeah.
he works with a Kanye artist, or well, he works with a lot of other people too. But
That's
Swizz Beatz is on
Swizz
that.
Beatz,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I love Swizz Beatz' voice when he's not trying to rap and he's just kind of doing shouting stuff, and that's kind of what he does on that track, and it works out very well.
For sure.
What'd you think of the narrative on this album, or not even really narrative, just kind of like, I guess it's concept.
See, that's where I like that's where I kind of fell off, was like the concept to me kind of got lost in the in the like the changing of the tracks from track to track. I didn't necessarily feel like a lot of it flowed very well together as a whole set. And that's kind of like that's kind of what I'm talking about with 17 with 38. It just, I don't know, maybe you got the message from it.
Yeah, it clicked with me. I mean,
I know, like, there was a lot of talk about, like, a lot of, come up and like young shit going down when he was young, and like,
right. And I don't like this at all when people just talk about the come up, and I really hate it when it's like people who actually like don't need to come up, like, middle class white kids trying to rap.
Yeah, right.
Like, they're like, yeah, I know, like, you might know a couple of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I hate when people just talk about the come up, and I feel like he does do that a couple of times, but it's almost always followed by like, oh, for my mama, and then he goes back into like a song.
A lot of mama. A lot of mama talk.
Right, Kanye West.
Yeah.
Then he goes back into his theme, like, which like if I had to compare it to something, it's kind of like if you took Good Kid, Mad City song by song, and you mixed it up a little bit more, and then there were no direct links between the songs. Like, it doesn't build a larger story. It's just kind of like he's sitting there with like a cousin or something. He's like, hey,
right,
remember when this happened? And like then
right,
they'll go into it, and it's cool. I like that a lot of them kind of carry a little bit of like flavor, and you kind of go into his world a bit. And I like the way they open the album, because I always wanted to open an album by just laying voice clips over it like that.
Right. Yeah. Right.
So that's pretty cool. It's like all of his like principals and teachers calling his
Sure.
mom, and I really hope that those are actual clips of like teachers, and like some of them seem fake, but some of them seem kind of sincere. Like they're calling his mom. They're like, oh, like Jay's like failing out of the 5th grade, which
Yeah.
stupid. Like,
Yeah.
is that legit? Like, do you think he actually failed out of the 5th grade?
I don't know.
I don't know. How do you fail out of the 5th grade?
It'd probably be pretty hard to fail out of 5th grade.
I feel like you could be gang affiliated and you could at least get through 8th grade.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
I mean, I don't want to judge because I don't live that life, but
Right.
still, like, I feel No Child Left Behind. They push you.
Mm-hmm. The one song the last song, the Black Sheep White Dove one, that one really stood out to me as well. I really like the 3 parts, the transition, the like the piano a cappella paired with like the rapping over it in the very middle of the track. I really loved. Like, I kind of liked how that like kind of moved into the next part of the next part of the track. and I think he like goes off in the last part.
No, he does. He definitely does, and that's why I kind of hate that there's not like a distinction between like a deluxe version of this album and a normal one, because that is the last track. And
the next one's a bonus.
It's a bonus track, but like, I don't think a lot of people pay attention to that sort of thing these days.
Yeah.
And it's like the next one's, it's a fine song, Baby Scale with Young Gleesh, but like it doesn't do anything that the rest of the album didn't already do. And I feel like
that one, Baby Scale, was an Adult Swim single.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I feel like it should have stayed that, like I guess if it was already getting some plays from that, he probably wanted that to factor into sales, which, God, Drake trying to get everyone to tag stuff into, not important, we could talk about that later, but like that, or you just want to pad out the length of it, because 35 is already kind of skimpy, and 30 or 32 is just like you're just barely an LP. Like there's EPs that are longer than that, so I mean, yeah, I wish it had done 1111 was one of my favorites.
Yeah, right. Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. All right. I think I've said all I needed to say on this project.
So if you had to recommend it for anybody, like the kind of stuff they'd be into, what do you think that would be?
I mean, like anyone that it's kind of like it's like I said, for me it was like all over the board for me. So like I think there are a few tracks that like a avid hip hop lover would like, and then I felt like there were a few tracks that could have a good commercial appeal too. But I don't know if I could recommend it to like anyone in specific, though. I think it's definitely worth a listen, but I don't know who. I definitely would say it's probably more of a hip hop head oriented thing, at least at this point.
Right.
At least at this point. But and people know of JIDK, and I'm sure his active following is probably like pretty. I would think that they're pretty happy with this project. I mean, I guess I don't really know the past, but I personally, as a new as new coming to this project, I felt new coming to IDK, I felt very satisfied with this, I would say.
My take is it's like a less talented version of Jeed decided to write Sylvia demo.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's a lot of crutches there, because it, instead of having like catchy hooks and stuff, he opts to take a couple of notes from songs from his youth, which is cool upon an initial listen, but I feel like it would get annoying after a while.
For sure.
I'm just gonna go listen to the Gorillaz if I'm trying to hear Clint Eastwood,
Yeah, that was the one part for me. I was like, all right, well,
like I was confused. I'm like, there's no way they cleared this.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and some of the hooks were some of the hooks like throughout the project I felt were a little lazy as well. Like there was one he just kept saying down, 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 down over and over again, and I was like, okay, this is
it worked for Chris Brown.
yeah, I guess you could say that.
Okay,
I guess you could say that.
Yeah, but all in all, I like this a whole lot, and I'll probably listen to it again. I don't think it's a one and done, but it's still pretty new, so I don't know how much staying power any of it has. I don't think most of it works outside of the album too. Yeah. Like you couldn't just throw a lot of this in a playlist. Like you kind of need to be listening to just IDK if you're gonna listen to this. You can't just be hitting shuffle.
Right. Right. All right, so let's roll into shout-outs now. You got any albums you wanna shout out, or we'll do that after. Yeah,
okay.
We'll review Super Slimy after.
What do I wanna? Okay. Anything I want to shout out? I haven't listened to it a lot. I like that Young Dolph album a whole lot though, and that's kind of it for rap right now. Just I haven't really been on much of a hip hop kick. Been listening to a lot of American football or Band of Natives, so that's pretty neat. And that's another thing that I feel like you can just kind of throw on that's good walking music for this time of year, or good study music. Been getting back into the Smashing Pumpkins, and first 3 albums are all very tight, I guess the third one's a double, so it kind of gets a little meandery. But the rest of their catalog's pretty great too. It just gets overlooked because it just becomes a Billy Corgan endeavor. And I went back and listened to The Massacre by 50 Cent. I think 50 doesn't get kind of the clout that he deserves as an MC anymore. I don't think he's like as talented anymore at all.
Right.
But I think he's definitely got like a Tupac thing going on, but from the 2000s. Like all of his hooks are really catchy. I mean, everybody knows In the Club from like that first like beat. It's the most recognizable thing in the world. Mm-hmm. So The Massacre, pretty freaking tight for what it is.
Yeah, right.
Which I've been running to that a lot lately.
Cool.
So those are my shout outs.
Cool. All right. Well, I got one I'd like to discuss really quick. That I don't want to go too deep in on it, because we don't want this podcast to be drawn out for another hour or so. But Mike by the Water. I know you listened to it. I know you listened to that EP.
I came up to Andy. I'm like, "You miss Earl?" Yeah, everyone misses Earl. I want him to come down. And I'm like, yeah, he's got this clique of guys that he hangs out with, and one of the ones that he likes a whole lot is Mike.
Yeah, this guy, like Frittner said, is comes from Earl's posse, and definitely has like a very similar tone to a lot of his songs, and his flow, and basically like will fulfill your Earl needs for the time being.
Over 4 tracks.
It's just 4 tracks, really short little EP.
He's got other stuff. It's just very hard to find because Mike is just the worst name for a rapper ever.
I had to look up like the specific project in order to find it, I think.
No, and like just Googling it's a nightmare, dude. Like you have to like write Mike Earl Sweatshirt and then you can find him. But otherwise, like he's got to rebrand or something. Cause
Did you happen to catch any production credits on this one? Do you have an?
No, and I wasn't sure if that meant it was self-produced.
Yeah.
All those guys kind of seem to do their own thing, so I could see it being self-produced. I don't know though.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either, and I like you said, I tried looking it up, and like there's like no way you could find this guy on Google. Like, this is just a bad name for that.
But yeah, he's really cool. When I say he's like Earl, he's a good stand-in, and he's not quite there. He's probably much less experienced, and he doesn't have the plethora of songs to reference. So. It's neat. It's a quick listen. You got any real deets about it that you'd like to discuss?
Not. I don't think really. I think "God's With Me," the final track in the EP, was like the highlight for me.
Yeah, me too.
But I feel like throughout the album, like the production is very woozy and very like. No,
there's a lot of space.
Like very spacey and. It's just a very eerie sort of eerie beats that he has this very laid back sort of flow over, and I don't know, that stuff like really hits hard for me. Like I love that stuff, and I know certain other people, i.e. Alex Pauls, like and Zachary Pindris, they love that stuff. There you go, guys.
You got your shout outs.
Yeah, there's your shout out. All right, but that's about all I wanted to say on that, because I don't want to go like too far into it, and it's very short. Do you have anything else you want to?
No,
add?
That's about it.
Yeah.
Let's get into the meat of this.
Well, I wanted to shout out like a couple more.
Okay.
Just to like a couple singles that I thought were really good. The new Joji single, Will He? All right, yeah, you're giving me that look.
I rolled my eyes.
Yeah, you're giving me that look. But I don't know, like I've really liked the few songs that Joji has put under the name Joji. For those of you who don't know,
Joji makes real music.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Joji is Filthy Frank. He's Pink Guy. And when he's rapping as Pink Guy, it's a lot more
entertaining.
A lot more entertaining and like kind of like. It's a meme. It's a meme. But like these past couple songs released as Joji, he takes a lot more of an R&B style, and I think it's something that something that I can really wrap my head around. And it reminds me a little bit kind of like my craze for Lance Skywalker when Lance Skywalker's album came out.
Dude, that's its own thing though. Everything that, and I'm gonna stand by this for now. He could change, but as of right now, every song that he's put out under Joji just sounds like any random song that comes up on YouTube lo-fi hip hop, which that stuff's great. I like that stuff. It's just I'm not like writing song names down from that. I'm like, oh,
Right.
I'm just gonna go listen to lo-fi, and just there's a million of those dudes on SoundCloud. You see this in like hip hop heads comments, or you see it on other discussion sites, just like saying if he didn't have the YouTube clout, nobody would be listening to this. And I kind of agree. And somebody's like, well, he was releasing stuff, he just didn't really push it until. I'm like, yeah, I don't think so, dude. Like, I really, even if he was, it's like this has a new push behind it. And I really think the only reason he's getting anywhere is because of his name, which, you know, that's a big part of the game, you know, your connections and whatever, like, your persona that you bring. But, like, he doesn't have anything really of note to say from Joji.
Right.
Like, the first time I heard it, I'm like, oh, that's one more thing that he's pretty good at, you know? But it's just not, it doesn't do it for me.
Okay. All
But,
right.
you know,
to each his own.
Check it out. I mean, you decide for yourself. It just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah. I would definitely just give it it's not that long. It's like a 2-minute track.
No,
or
all the songs are really short too, which that's a lo-fi thing. They get old, so they know they have to keep them short.
Yeah. The last one I wanted to mention was a Chew, Ski Master Slump God, and Keith Ape.
I haven't heard it. I'm sorry.
You haven't heard that?
I'm always really late on that kind of stuff, just because I don't know, those guys haven't really done it for me yet. And Keith Ape's cool, but like even Ski
Mask is on the come up.
Yeah, I know he is, and I know he's gonna be really big, and I'm gonna feel really bad that I wasn't on the wave. But like right now, I just don't find myself playing a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
Like what was his most recent really big single besides that one? The one that had a music video?
Catch Me Outside?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. That's a good song.
Yeah.
But like
a Chew has a music video too.
Well, also just like he's one of those guys who like he's in a very interesting phase of his career where like he's transitioning from being a SoundCloud to a more just normal release schedule artist, and all of his good stuff you can't get on iTunes. Like and it sucks because I'm kind of done ripping stuff off the internet and then adding it to iTunes or Spotify or whatever.
Yeah.
Just I'd rather wait for them to choose or deem what they think is appropriate to put on iTunes.
He's releasing a project soon.
Yeah, no, he's got a mixtape coming out.
Yeah, I'm pretty hyped because I liked You Will Regret. I liked You Will Regret, and like these little singles that he's released. They're kind of hit and miss for me, but he had one with ASAP Ferg that was kind of entertaining. I Love Your Aunt or whatever it's called. But this one, A Chew, is with Keith Ape, and Keith Ape is a Korean rapper actually, and raps solely in Korean for most of the time. I even looked up like the Genius lyrics, and they're in Korean. Like I was like, come on, just give me the English version so I can like pick it apart a little bit.
You gotta hit up Yoon and ask what he's saying.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the way to do it. But
good lord.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into our feature certified.
43 minutes into this show.
All right, I think it's gonna be around an hour. We gotta try and shorten it up a little bit later, but all right, that's fine. We'll go into Super Slimy.
Okay, so
Super
Slimy, a project that kind of popped out of the blue. It's a collaboration between Future and Young Thug, kind of along the same lines as what A Time to Be Alive was gonna be. You know, like they announced it about a week before it came out. I don't know if they streamed it on anything. I don't think they did before like it actually came out. Like there wasn't like a listening party. But yeah, you know, it's a little longer than What a Time to Be Alive. It's got 13 rather than 11 tracks, and the reason for the longer length is because they pad out the track list a little bit more with some rather than having one cut at the end from like one from Future, one from Drake. They have two from each, and they're both kind of spaced out, which I think that's cool. I think it's a way better way of doing it. But I like the finesse almost that One at a Time to Be, which by the way I'm gonna be drawing a lot of comparisons to that because Future, you know, he's commercial enough where obviously like this was like planned out, and they're probably like, let's try to do What a Time to Be Alive again. I like the finesse a little bit more where they're like, let's get each artist's take like on a song after like having like 9 songs together, and I think it works better here just having them spaced out, just because it fits the track list a little bit better. It's a little less jarring, but
Yeah.
I kind of do miss that little finesse where like they both do their own thing, and then that ends the project.
Yeah. For sure. I see, like, I like Young Thug. Future.
You love Young Thug.
Yeah, Young Thug for me, like his that EP with Carnage, just like
No, and dude,
he came back after Beautiful Thugger Girls and impressed me again. Like Beautiful Thugger Girls for me was just a little bit too out of the ordinary, out of his zone. And
see, I just thought it was boring.
yeah,
I didn't even think it was out of
Well,
there were
that's-
2 songs that were out of the ordinary, and they're the best ones. It was Family Don't Matter and whatever the other one with Millie Go Lightly was. But like, even like Relationship with Future, which people are saying that song's better than any of the ones on here. Kind of like how they were all saying Where You At was better than any of the Drake and Future songs on What Time to Be Alive. I don't agree with that. I think almost every song on here is better than that one.
yeah.
Just because I think that's not a great project.
Yeah, I was really not impressed with that project. So when this came out,
Well,
it was
hold
it
up.
was just-
So you gave Thug a little bit of a where he's coming into this project. Future also has kind of been oversaturating this year. He came out with 2 very lengthy studio albums, although they were different styles, Future and Hendrix. I like Hendrix a hell of a lot more, and it's a shame that it kind of got overlooked because
Yeah.
Mask Off blew up, and no other song from either
Mask
project
Off
blew up.
really blew up.
Because there were some radio hits, dude, or at least potential
Yeah.
for it on Hendrix. Like Fresh Air should have been a spring break jam, and it wasn't. And I think Selfish, the Rihanna one,
Yeah.
that one could have been huge. And
That one
it
was
just,
one of my favorites.
it didn't blow up, and I'm like, this is really dumb. So Future kind of thought that was going to be his transition to just pop music, I think. And now he's doubling back on that, and he's given stuff for, quote, the streets, which is really just college frat boys, which is what this project is.
Yeah, definitely. Like throughout it's honestly just straight bangers when it all comes down to it. Like I feel like they're not really venturing out of their comfort zone here. They're just kind of like doing what they
Right.
do best, and they're really just kind of like, they're 2 premier artists that are really hitting their mark.
And well, that's the thing though. I think it's a shame that they don't do the weirder songs they normally do, because my favorite Young Thug is when he does his like Muppet voices.
Yeah, right.
And he just goes over weird instrumentals.
Yeah.
And he's just doing his thing. My favorite Future songs are the ones where it sounds like he's like yelping in pain because he's like caught in a bear trap. Okay. And you don't get a lot of that on here. You kind of get like I don't even know what you would call it. Just like the autopilot version of both.
Right.
And they both shine more. Well, Thug anyway shines way more on his solo tracks on this project. I think the best song possibly is Killed Before,
Yeah, Killed Before.
which, by the way, a little non sequitur. Did you see the post earlier on Reddit about like how they think Thug listened to Hoodwinked or watched Hoodwinked before he
No.
did that song? And there's like a song in Hoodwinked where there's like a goat going "Hey, ba, da, ba," and like it sounds just like that. It's the same rhythm.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, sorry. You're getting a little close to the mic. It was skeezing me out.
Oh. Yeah,
yeah.
it shouldn't be that.
No,
It
it's
doesn't look like it
not
peaked all that
not
much.
not important. Okay.
But yeah.
So yeah, just I think Thug definitely outshines Future on the project, but that's just because we've heard so much Future lately and we kind of missed, I guess, Thug. But even then, like, Thug doesn't really do it on a lot of this project for me. Just it's autopilot.
Right. That was the one thing that like that I couldn't like really get out of my head was like I felt like track to track there wasn't like you said, like there wasn't anything like new and inventive that like really came out of this. But I will say, like, if you are a Future fan, if you are a Young Thug fan,
You're gonna like it.
you're gonna like this project.
Well, and like I almost feel like, all right. So the big standout that everyone's been talking about is Patek Water.
The one with Offset.
Yeah, okay. Which I feel like people are just kind of trying to, this is not the right use of this word, by the way. People are trying to meme that into the single. They're like, oh yeah, there's definitely like a catchiness here. Like you can probably start to see people like using stuff from it on Twitter. And like, I just don't think it's there. I think it feels very manufactured, and it's like, they were like, oh man, like there were so many quotable things from What a Time to Be Alive. What if we did that again with like Thug though instead? There's no like real standout song like Diamonds Dancing. There's no real standout song like Plastic Bag, where like they're like these more emotional songs. There's nothing like that. It's just like, hey, all right, let's throw another trap beat and maybe have Mike Will put some synths in the background to make it different.
Right.
Which, like that's one of the other really good songs, Mink Flow. Just when they do something different with the production, Thug and Future tend to shine more because they also do weird things with their voices. It tends to sound a little bit better. It's almost like you need more crazy going on.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, I mean, like, I thought it started off really well. I was like, No Cap was hot. 3 was hot. And then
All the Smoke's pretty good too.
All the Smoke was pretty good. But then like I felt like it just started getting into like
like the whole middle of it. Like I in my opinion, you cut out everything in the middle and just have the first 3 tracks and the last 3 tracks, which that sucks because then Future doesn't get any single songs. But that'd be a pretty strong EP. Heck, if you just took that, and this is always my argument with Thug, if you just took those 6 songs and you took the 4 from the Carnage EP, you'd have a pretty good mixtape right there.
Yeah.
If you would have done the same thing, Theory did Jeffrey, Slime Season 3, and I'm Up, he could have had a perfect debut album, and I think he'd be a lot bigger than where he is right now, and he'd finally start selling. Because he has hits, just he's better about quality control now, but like, even then, there's just so many young Thug songs that I don't think we need. Like, it's cool for the fans, I guess, to get everything, but like, I think you'd have more fans if you just kind of kept your release to a low, and just put out the cream of the crop. And the other problem with this project is that, like What a Time to Be Alive, Future it seems like a Future mixtape that they were like, hey, we need to differentiate this a little bit. We already had 2 Future albums where there was like almost no singles or features on it this year. Let's just get a feature on every single song. Pull Young Thug in, pull Drake in. So it just ends up sounding like a Future album, but with like Young Thug features, which they said the same thing about What a Time to Be Alive, and I don't agree with that as much because I think people came to that one more for Drake, whereas this one, I think they're coming to this one more for Future.
Sure. I think we're in pretty good agreeance with this one.
I walked into the living room yesterday and I was like, hey, let's talk about it on the show, but like, can you give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down? He did like the middle one. I'm like, I wanted like a more definite opinion than just the middle thumb, because that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like, there's probably going to be a point. I don't know why. Whenever I'm like on a beach, I always go back to this kind of stuff. Like, and I just go for a run. I'm like, I need something just to like not really listen to and just think about for the next 40 minutes. I'd put something like this on, and I'll be like impressed by it. I'll be like, wow, I feel like this flew under my radar a little bit. But other than that, I just don't think it's not as important of a release as I think a lot of people are making it out to be. And I think at the end of the year, no one's going to be putting any of these songs in their top tracks of the year.
Well, it was a complete surprise. So it's not like I don't think it was like they're trying to like strategically place this one in any way, or like trying to like, it was definitely like we just got this whole back catalog of tracks. Let's just throw them together and put them out.
Yeah, it's just, like they already toured together. They might still be touring, and like I get that. Like, let's release like a care package worth of songs just to kind of feed the streets, man. But like, I just don't. I think it was kind of a marketing thing where they're like scratch your back, you scratch mine. Like Future's used to putting out 3 projects a year. This is his 3rd project for the year. And, Thug also still kind of is, not as much anymore, is kind of like a high output guy. And they're just looking for new ways to rebrand putting that music out.
For sure.
So smooshing it together, maybe get a little bit of fan crossover. That's one way of doing it. And that's just, I don't know, it doesn't really feel like they set out to put out like this quality album, mixtape, whatever this is. Like when you see a collaboration like Watch the Throne or like Mad Villainy, those are awful examples to compare this to. But like when you set out to do something like that, there's a little bit more love involved. Here, you could mix up anything in the track list and they could be fine.
Yeah. Which
I guess that's what it is. But, I'd like to think that these artists put a little more, they have like teams behind them that you think would put in a little bit more effort than that.
Yeah.
And I still think they're both not playing to their strengths on a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean it's something that I think I'm gonna end up going back to, and I'm gonna listen to again. But it's just not something that like I would imagine sitting through and listening to the whole thing back to front or front to back again, because it's not it like I like a few singles from it, and I feel like sometimes it just gets redundant. It's too long. They could have shortened it up, or like you said, they could have thrown together a Young Thug album and just made it 10 times better.
I think it just really says something that like the better songs on here, the ones that have Thug more on them, are like the ones that are the Thug singles. Like as for the two featured solo songs, For the Gang and Feed Me Dope, like you can already hear what that song sounds like without even having heard the song. Like just from those names, Feed Me Dope might just be the most Future song name of all time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like they don't need to be here. I don't think anyone's thirsting for it. He just gave you about 40 tracks of like better Future music this year.
Right.
Who's gonna listen to those songs? They don't need to be on here, dude.
Right. So if you were to slap a rating,
no, I'm not
on this one.
See, I don't want to do that on this show. Like,
you don't want
I thought
not for just the feature track.
For the uninitiated, Andy used to really hate when I would ask him to like rank an album, and he's like, "I'm just gonna say if music's good or bad for now on, or if like I liked it." And I kind of like that school of thought actually.
Okay.
Like, talk about it. I think there's way more of a reason to listen to people talk about music if you're not gonna like follow it up with a little rating. Because
Right.
I feel like a lot of times when I read reviews, I'll be like, "Oh, you know what? I'll probably like this," and you see the number at the bottom, and you're like, "Well, where are you deducting points from?" It's stupid.
Right. Well, I mean, this one's a little bit more of like, they've been through the whole cast. They've heard all of the different opinions. So now it's kind of like, okay, like, if like, how about this? How about like, yeah, I don't know.
Dead air.
Dead air.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So
well,
then we won't rate it. Let's not rate
at the
it.
end of the day,
Let's leave it up to the viewers.
I just don't think this is that monumental of a thing, and I'm already hearing it coming out of Greek houses.
Yeah.
Which, like,
Yeah.
this isn't the kind of music that I want to play at a party, and it's probably not the kind of music that a lot of people want to hear at a party, but it's the kind of music that a DJ's the frat DJ, you know, or like college DJ is gonna be like, "Oh yeah, everybody's trying to hear that Future music." And like you're probably gonna end up with quite a few of these popping up on stuff. Just, you know, it's fine. It's just it doesn't stand out. The last thing I really want to say, which, you know, is kind of a miscellaneous thing we just didn't get to. Future sounds like he's dying on Group Home. It's the last song, and he's like, and like it's a new it's a new voice for him. Like I feel like I've heard most of the Thug and Future voices. Like you got the like all those like Thug ones.
Yeah, I think I gotta go back and listen to it to know what you're talking about.
Oh my god, it's so weird. I'm like, is this him? Like, what happened here? Did he come in with a cold that day? It's so weird. Like, and like you think he's gonna go back to normal because like you hear like you know it's him because like his inflection changes, like he's about to go in harder, but then he goes back to like this like grandfather on a couch voice, and I'm like, oh my god, like what's going on here?
All right.
So yeah. Okay.
All right. So I guess that's gonna conclude our podcast for today. Thanks everyone for listening. If you'd like us to review something that we didn't get to, I hope okay. If you want to hear us review something that we didn't get to, like hit us up, and we'll see if we can fit it in on the next episode, or at least give it a shout out.
I'm like intentionally gonna pick something. I'm gonna make you listen to something you don't want to listen to next time.
Oh,
like,
jeez.
I thought like there was a new Pink album that came out, and I'm like, I want to pick this one so bad, just because I haven't listened to a Pink album since like 2013, and I really want to listen to it just to see if it's the same stuff.
Right.
And she had that Eminem song, and I'm like, all right, well, that's incentive for Andy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, Godspeed. Yeah.
Thanks again for everyone listening. So. All right. That was a good one.
It's mine.